Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Katie Wismer. I'm an author and an editor. I have 8 books out currently, and book number 9 comes out February 20th. It's called Broken Perfect Lies. It's a romantic suspense, bodyguard romance with Hannah Montana vibes. This channel started out as a booktube channel before it became an authortube channel, so they're like holding up the books for the thumbnail. The deja vu. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about some things that I've learned over the years that I've been self-publishing my books. I don't have a very clear like publishing anniversary, so in a way it's been like 3 years, in a way it's been like 5 years, but I'm gonna say 3. It feels like 3 to me. My first book came out in 2018, which I published when I was still in college. It's a poetry collection. Didn't pay any money for it. Didn't really know much about self-publishing at the time. It was really just a for fun project. I wasn't planning on publishing any more books after that, self-publishing at least, until roll around to 2020 after I'd graduated and my first book came out, or my first novel came out 2 years after that. So I really see this book as the start of my self-publishing journey in 2020. So that's why I feel like it's been 3 years. And then this one 5 years ago is the outlier. Since then, the books I've published, I have 3 poetry collections out, 2 contemporaries, my 3rd contemporary coming out next month, or I guess by the time you're watching this month. And then I have a spicy vampire series with the first 3 books out so far. I am currently 26 years old and I do this full time. I'm a very reflective person. I like to look back. I like to make a lot of these like kind of wrap up videos, cataloging my thoughts. It's a nice little time capsule for me to be able to go back and look at. So I just kind of wanted to talk about where I'm at after doing this consistently for 3 years, some things that I've learned. Maybe something here will be helpful, some advice for you if you are just getting into self-publishing. Maybe you've been publishing longer than me. I don't know, maybe this will be helpful, maybe not. We're gonna get straight into it. Number 1, you are as ready as you are ever going to be. If you're waiting until you feel like you're ready, you're going to be waiting forever. And this goes for everything. This goes for publishing your first book, making the jump in self-publishing and putting yourself out there. This goes for starting social media and putting your face online and opening yourself up to the kind of criticism that that invites. This goes for quitting your job and going full-time. This goes for writing the book that you're kind of afraid of your family reading. This goes for social events and having to meet other authors and talk to people. This goes for literally everything you could possibly imagine, not just in this field of work, but you are never going to feel ready, but in this moment you are as ready as you are going to be, so don't let that stop you. I think this also comes into just like women in the workplace. If you've seen that one study where like women will feel like they're 96% qualified for a job, and so then they won't apply because they feel like they're not ready, they don't have enough skills, they need to be a little bit better before they can apply. And then a man has like 46% of what the job needs and he'll apply for it no problem. Basically, I'm telling you to have the confidence of a mediocre white man applying for a job. You do not need to be 100% ready to just go for it. Number 2, you will write more books. You will write better books. You won't run out of ideas. You haven't peaked. Your best isn't behind you. You're not getting worse with every book. You will find new readers. You will learn new things. You will survive almost every bump in your career. We'll get to that. There's always a way to pivot. There's always something that you can try. What I mean by you can survive almost any bump in your career. There are very few things that will truly stop you from publishing, stop you from having success. The only way you can really fail at this is if you give up. There are few, like, I feel like as authors, or at least I can speak for myself and a lot of authors I know, we have this fear of doing something wrong, and it's like the whole thing's gonna come crumbling down if we do. If we have a book flop, or people don't like one of our releases, or we make a wrong call, we pick the wrong cover, we hire the wrong editor, we do the wrong marketing thing, like you can make a million wrong choices and none of them are going to be like the final nail in your coffin. Like you can come back from any mistake, any bad decision that you make, almost. The reason why I say almost is because there's a separate category for the like authors who stalk reviewers. Does anyone remember when that happened? Like stuff like that in a different league. If we're not talking about inappropriate behavior, harassment, and just like shooting yourself in the foot, any other mistake, any other misstep, any other dip in your sales, any other you don't complete a series and you lose a lot of readers because of that, you take too long between, you can survive anything else. The conversation on cancel culture is pretty tired at this point, but honestly, even if you are canceled, I hope it's for something stupid and not because you did something bad. The book internet a lot of the time feels like the whole world, and like that's your entire potential audience, or just the people who are on social media and who are seeing this kind of drama. But if you go into a bookstore and you see the books on the shelves and you talk to people who are working there, if you're not online, so many people don't know about the drama that's happening online. So you might be canceled in one space and it might feel like it's this like global thing, everyone cancels you, everyone hates you, and then you go into an actual bookstore and those people would have no idea what you're talking about. So my point is, there's nothing that's really going to just be it for you if you don't let it be. There are always new opportunities, there are always new readers. I don't mean to just make this about getting canceled, I just feel like that was an example that was in my head. There are very few things that you can't come back from if you don't give up. You have a series flop, you move on to the next one. A new social media pops up and suddenly your old marketing isn't working anymore and you have to pivot and you have to adapt and you have to learn how to do this new thing like TikTok in the past few years. I feel like as writers we're dramatic. It's just like part of being a creative person, and a lot of the time it can feel like things are the end of the world and you'll never be able to recover. So I just wanted to say, whatever it is, you can still recover from it. It's never too late to breathe new life into old books. This is something that I've really seen in my own books this past year. One of my backlist titles, which was my lowest selling book this time last year, was my best-selling book of last year, and it was the majority of my income came from that one book. So just because something doesn't take off when you first publish it, don't give up hope on it. It might just not be its time just yet. More people don't want to read an incomplete series than you think. Especially, I feel like this is only getting worse with binge culture, with, you know, entire seasons of TV shows being available on Netflix. If your book series is incomplete, a lot of readers don't want to start it. They want the whole thing so they can binge. They don't want to have to wait for the next installment. So if you are, this doesn't mean you need to publish really quickly to finish your series, but it might mean you need to be patient to see the results that you want to see until that series is complete, because a lot of readers will not be willing to start it. Check back with me at the end of this year. That's something I've been seeing with my Marionettes series. This is still one of my best-selling books, but it's an incomplete series, and I am told pretty much on a daily basis by readers who like see one of my marketing things, they're like, oh, this sounds so good, but it's not complete, so I'm not going to start it. I'm going to wait until all of the books are out. So book 4, which is the last book, comes out this September, so we'll see if the numbers look drastically different after that. I have a feeling they will. This one is definitely more my opinion. It might be kind of controversial and some people might not agree with it. Be aware of your digital footprint as an author, especially if you are coming from a book reviewer space before pivoting and becoming an author. This is something I can speak to personal experience about because I was a booktuber for, gosh, 4 years before publishing my own work. My opinion is not law, but I feel like as an author, you have different expectations. There's no like written law that you can't review other authors' work, but I feel like it's this kind of understood thing in the community. You can do it if you want to, but from my perspective, it's sort of a professionalism and a courtesy thing. So I would just advise you to perhaps think twice about negatively reviewing books of other authors online, specifically if they are authors in your genre. For one thing, if you are a reviewer who posts on Amazon and you're an author and it's a book in a genre that you also publish, that can go against Amazon's terms of service and they could shut your account down because it's seen as you like negatively reviewing your competition. And then also just like on the social aspect, there's, you know, a million writers in the world, but it is kind of like a small town feeling where like people talk and things get around. And we'll get into this in one of my later points, how important community is and how nice it is to have writer friends and writer groups and of people who you can talk to who really understand like what your job is like, because anyone who doesn't have this job, you will never fully be able to understand. And so if you are known as the person who's like trashing other authors' books, it's just, even if that wouldn't bother you, I am telling you, authors are still human, and if they see you trash talking their book and then you slide into their DMs wanting to be friends, or you slide in and you want to do a book swap, or you want to work together. People are human. They're gonna remember like, oh, she said I was a shitty writer. Like, you can burn bridges very easily is the point that I'm making. I'm not saying you should lie and do 5-star reviews for every book you read. I personally just stopped publicly reviewing books. I don't post them. I made a separate private account so I can like track my own reading and stuff, but if you're publishing something under your author name publicly for all of your readers to see, to be honest, it just kind of, I don't want to be mean if you do this, I don't mean it to be mean, but to me it comes across as like tasteless and just kind of tacky. I'm sure there will be an argument like, but so and so does it, great for them. Great for them. I personally think it makes you look bad. I guess we'll jump to the author friends one because we just mentioned it. Writing is super solitary. Being an author is super solitary, especially if you're like me and you work from home and you live alone. And as supportive and kind as my family, my friends are, they'll ask me about it, but it's just so clear that they don't fully get it. Like, they don't really understand everything that goes into this job. And so writing friends, I have found, is key. It's crucial to have people in your life who understand everything. It really makes all the difference. And if you're like, I'm awkward, like I don't know how to make author friends, we're writers. We're almost all introverts, slightly awkward. I promise you, the majority of the time, if there's someone that like you want to be friends with, they want to be friends with you too, and they are also uncomfortable. Get over it, make it work. Next, let's talk a little bit about marketing. Marketing your books is a full-time job. Writing your books is a full-time job. And marketing can be fun. It can be, you could feel productive while you're doing it. You get some instant gratification when you see sales rolling in, and it's easy to make it an excuse to not write. It's necessary, but don't get sucked down the rabbit hole. Set some boundaries for yourself and stick to them. Bring on help if you need to. I did that this past year, bringing on an assistant and going off of marketing. Everyone says this, and it's one of those things that I feel like a lot of people, everyone hears it, but no one really fully understands it until they experience it. You have so many more marketing options once you have more books published. I feel like everyone wants to be like, okay, but I only have one book, so like what are my marketing options for this one book? And they just want to get the ball rolling. They want to get that momentum with a single book. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but everybody thinks they're going to be the exception and they're going to be able to do it with one book. Has anyone seen the movie He's Just Not That Into You? You're not the exception, you're the rule. This isn't to say you can't sell a single book, but I'm just saying it's gonna be easier. You're gonna have more fun, you're gonna have more options the more books you have out. So I would prioritize getting those first few books published. Do what you want when it comes to book reviews. Read them, don't read them. I personally would not advise to ever replying to them or addressing them publicly or like in any way kind of like putting the reviewer on blast. When it comes to dealing with negative reviews, you're gonna be gaslit online if you ever talk about it. So this is where the writer friends come in. Have people that you can talk to about it who understand, or talk to your real friends about it in real life. You are valid in whatever you're feeling. You are allowed to feel that, but keep it offline. Don't respond publicly. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel, and people will tell you otherwise. Don't listen to them. And it gets better. The more negative reviews you get, the more desensitized you get to it, especially if it's for the same book, because there are only so many little things that people can pick apart about your books, and once you've seen it all, like nothing can hurt you anymore. There's nothing new left for people to point out, and at that point it just gets repetitive and tiring, and you're like, yep, heard it before a million times. And I think it's helpful to keep in mind that reviews are not a measurement of the quality of your book. It's the measurement of someone's subjective personal enjoyment of your book. Very, very few readers take into account the quality of a book when they're reading. Even if they say that they do, they are rating based on their personal enjoyment of the book, and that's not something that you have any control over. Even if they claim in their book objectively, this is a bad book, what the hell is objectively? This is still your opinion. Subjectively, objectively, your opinion, objectively. Like, who gets to say what's a good book, what's a bad book? You can be like, well, it doesn't follow story structure. Okay, but who decided that every book has to follow a specific structure or whatever? So it's all subjective. Even the like things that they teach you in schools, and this is coming from someone who majored in writing. Someone came up with all of the things that a book should have or a book should do. It's one thing if you're following that for marketability, but if you're just writing because you're an artist and you're enjoying it, and your artistic vision and creative expression is more important to you than marketability, that's a perfectly valid career to have as well. This is something I've learned, definitely, if we're talking about writing craft. Endings of your books are so important, which sucks because endings are hard. At least for me, it's one of the hardest parts of the book to write. But endings are super important. I swear to God, readers will give you a free pass on so many things if you can nail the ending of a book. People will forgive so many other issues in your book if you have an ending that satisfies and it delivers on like all of the promises, because that ending note, that feeling that they have, that's the way that they feel about your book. Even if the rest of the book was excellent, if you have a lackluster ending, that's what they're gonna remember. So spend some time on the ending. Spend some time trying to make that really land. If you leave off on an unsatisfying ending, no matter how good the book is, people are still going to be disappointed, and that's going to be their final feeling that they get from your book. And the rest, it can try, but it can't really make up for that. For better or worse, a really well-written book does not equal a bestseller. A bestseller does not equal a really well-written book. It's not fair, and it's just the way that it is. Feeling frustrated about it or getting upset, let's all just be happy for the people who are successful, and it doesn't have to be this competition. It doesn't have to be this measurement of who deserves it. I've seen a lot of discourse lately online. That's where this is coming from. You will see tons of best-selling books that are poorly written, full of errors, and maybe just subjectively not your cup of tea. But if it's best-selling, it's best-selling for a reason. People are enjoying it for a reason. It's best to see when people are successful and be like, huh, think about how they're doing that. Maybe dissect the book. See what you can learn from that, instead of this whole like, that book is overhyped, that book isn't deserving of the popularity that it gets, that book isn't deserving of the love that it gets. There's no such thing as an overhyped book. If a lot of people love the book, a lot of people love the book. You're allowed to not like it. You're allowed to have a different opinion, but that doesn't negate everybody else's opinions of people who loved the book. For some reason, like, negative opinions and negative reviews are given so much validity than like 5-star reviews and people loving and raving about books. Like, people trust negative reviewers more. Like, just stay out of the review space is basically what I'm saying. You can't please everyone. This goes back to reviews and everything. I find it to be really helpful to just be very clear on your own goals, your own vision for your career and for your books, and your own desires, what you want to get out of your books. It makes the rest of it a lot easier to deal with. It's like an anchor. If you are solidly happy with something, the rest of it is just noise. It'll still affect you. It's still allowed to affect you. And the last thing I want to talk about is just in general, there is enough negativity out there to drown in. Like, you could focus on every little negative aspect of this job. There are plenty of them, trust me. I urge you to focus on the good stuff. There's a lot you can't control, and some people will never change. There are people you cannot reason with, there are people you cannot change their minds, and it sucks. People will say bad things, people will steal your work, people will do bad things, and it's something that I have a hard time letting go of. It's very, very frustrating when your livelihood is dependent on the integrity of other people. I would encourage you to protect your own mental health, protect your energy, protect your sanity. Just keep doing your thing and focus on the readers who are kind and respectful and ethical, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. That is perfect timing because now my battery is dying. Those are some of the things that I have learned in my 3-5 years of self-publishing. If you're also an author, I'd love to hear 1 or 2 things that you've learned over the course of your career down below in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? But that's gonna be it for today's video. All my links are down below, and I'll just see you in the next one very, very soon. Bye. No.